And then moving on, at the leprosarium, she began to hope she could work there and devote herself to these leprosy patients. And again, she faced opposition from her father. And, basically he said no. So her decision was overruled. And I think this caused a lot of frustration in life. And in her later life, she wrote about her frustration. So between the years of 1944 to 49, she did become a student of psychiatry at the University of Tokyo. There she married her future husband, Kamiya Noburo. They got married in 1946. And for the next decade, she played the role of housewife and mother, while also teaching foreign languages and correcting the English language papers of her husband and his students. And yeah, she did not like that. So in several diary entries from 1954, she expressed her frustration at being unable to pursue perhaps her most important source of Ikigai due to these commitments. She wrote, "Every day I get so frustrated with my English correction to the point I want to kill myself. Is life the experience of doing things you don't want to do? How long do I have to be a language teacher? Languages, you are the curse of me. If I spend so much time on these things, I will never be able to stand on my own as a psychiatrist. I don't know how many times I have the thought of giving up my full-time job and becoming a lecturer. How can I manage the responsibilities of a full-time job, my family, and my studies? It's a very human thing to do. Oh God, please give me the strength I need to climb these mountains forever and ever and ever and ever." So very frustrated writing that diary entry.
Yeah, and this was taking place at the post-war Japan too, right? I think the war ended around 1945, I believe.
Yep.
So the country was in the mode of rebuilding, trying to find its footings, and that's when she was also trying to find her footings,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. It kind of those overlaps. But those words in the struggle is something that I think a lot of the folks, even today, especially the mothers, will probably share,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's been 50, 60 years since her time, but the household responsibilities and how those things are arranged, especially in Japan, I think still has a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so in a way, she was already kind of pointing out the movement that's kind of later become the feminist movement, and also the rights for women
Mm.
in Japan. Even though I don't think there's any record of her being directly participating in those
Oh.
activities,
Mm.
but I'm sure she may have influenced a lot of folks who may have come up, grown after her to voice their perspectives on these matters.
Yeah, I also think the entry indicates this struggle from a lack of shimekan, like a sense of purpose. And,
Mm,
some people might think, wow, she was already successful in achieving so many things. And who knows, maybe someone in her position might have enjoyed correcting English and teaching languages, but it obviously didn't give her this sense of purpose she was seeking, obviously related to psychiatry and helping lepers. And there is a book, a biography on her life called A Woman with Demons. And I was a bit shocked by the title of the book, but it was inspired actually by one of her diary entries where she said, my demons are raging again today. And she was frustrated with life. And yeah, she had this incredible desire to, really do something with her life and help others less fortunate. But she also suffered a lot of loss and pain. So she even had several decades of depression due to the loss of her first love. She fell in love with a young man. It was one of her brother's friends, and she really didn't even know him. She kind of just only had a few encounters with him, but fell in love with him, and he died of tuberculosis, I think. Then she battled, obviously, multiple illnesses, tuberculosis, later cancer, and she obviously lived almost 2 decades, or at least a decade, living with the frustration of not being able to pursue work as a scholar and writer, and also the battle she had with her father on wanting to help lepers. So I think we could say she struggled in her life with a lack of ikigai for extended periods of time. So, do you think all these life experiences and all this frustration help to understand the multi-dimensional nature of ikigai?
Surely, right? Most certainly. And I know we'll be discussing Ikigai ni tsuite, the book, in another episode, but the way she writes the book, it's yes, she does use the words, or the phrases as if that she's kind of uncovered it through certain studies, but I feel that she is including her own experiences over it, even though she doesn't clearly state those things. So I don't know. Can I bring up a passage from the book, even though this is
Sure,
not about the
please.
book? So there's a passage where she says, right? So the people encounter obstacles akin to walls blocking their path in different forms and at different times throughout their lives. And they come to realize their power. Those, walls are really powerful. At such moments, the issue of finding ikigai inevitably arises. Is a life filled with such sadness and suffering still worth living? What should one live for from now on? And to your point, I think this was in her mind, if not all the time, a lot of the time over the course of her life. And another thing I'm kind of drawing a correlation to is based on some of the readings I've been doing, is that it's the concept of resilience,
Hmm.
right? The psychologists and others cover it, but I think this ikigai perspective is very similar to how the concept of resilience is discussed today. That the more often you encounter these kind of life situations, that more resilient you become. So essentially, the people who face the disadvantages and challenges, in their life situations, especially like earlier in their life, tend to develop resilience much faster. And that's, I think, what took place here with Mieko Kamiya herself.